Aliens thought love was weakness. They were wrong. Narrator. The Valari Dominion ruled the stars like gods of crystal and fire. For centuries, their fleets had crushed resistance. Their laws were perfect equations. Their people believed in one truth: emotion is weakness, and in their eyes, humanity, chaotic, passionate. Sentimental humanity was the weakest of all. When the Valari captured Commander Alara Vance, they did not see a soldier. They saw a chance to prove their philosophy true. She was dragged into the High Council chamber, shackled, bruised, but unbroken. The chamber stretched like a cathedral of glass, its walls refracting light into 1,000 cold colors. Valari nobles sat in tears above her, their crystalline skin glowing faintly, their eyes sharp as razors. At the center stood Counselor Voran, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Voran, human, you are reckless. You waste energy on sentiment. You build families instead of fleets. You cling to one another even as you die. Tell me, why should your species be spared? Narrator. Chains rattled as Alara raised her head. Her voice was hoarse, but her words struck like iron. Alara, because we fight for each other, not for conquest, not for power. We fight for love. And you can't kill that, narrator. The chamber rippled with laughter. Sharp, crystalline, merciless laughter. Voran, love. The ultimate weakness. Proof that your kind is unfit for the stars. Narrator, but one among them did not laugh. Kaelan, youngest of the council, sat in the shadows of the hall. His crystalline body glowed faintly dimmer than the rest. He studied the human woman, unsettled by the fire in her eyes. For the first time in his life, he wondered, could weakness look like strength? Asterisk narrator. Commander Alara Vance was not executed. Not yet. Instead, the council decided she would serve as a specimen and example of human fragility. A living testament to what they called the weakness of love. They placed her in a transparent cell inside the Valari citadel of glass. Every movement she made, every breath, every word, and the one assigned to watch her was Counselor Kaelan. Kaelan was young by Valari standards, his crystalline form still faintly luminous with the color of youth. Unlike his peers, he had not yet learned to sneer. He was told to observe her, catalogue her, prove with data that humans were fragile fools. But what he saw unsettled him. Alara did not cry. She did not beg. When other human prisoners passed her cell, she called out words of comfort. When rations came, she pushed portions through the slot to the weakest. At night, when silence pressed heavy, she hummed quiet tunes. Simple, broken melodies, lullabies, songs for children who were not there. Kaelan watched, and he did not understand. Kaelan, human, you gain nothing from these actions. Why give away your food? Why sing to the empty air? Why waste energy? Narrator Alara looked up from where she sat on the cold crystal floor. Her lips cracked, but her eyes, her human eyes, were steady. Alara, because love isn't about gaining, it's about giving. Because even here, in this cage, I'm not alone. And if I sing, somewhere, someone remembers they're not alone either. Narrator, Kaelan felt a tremor in his chest, a faint flicker of light across his crystalline ribs. It startled him. Valari Bodhi's only flickered under stress, under pain, never under words. He pressed his palm against the glass, as if to test the pulse of her claim. Kaelan, love, you speak of it as if it has weight, as if it can feed the hungry, heal the sick, stop death ELARA. It can't stop death, but it can make life worth fighting for. That's something you'll never understand until you feel it. Narrator, her words followed him when he left the chamber. Through the long crystalline corridors, through the echoing debates of the council, through the silence of his private chambers, they haunted him. Why would a species waste energy on the weak? Why risk for strangers? Why cry for the dead? The Valari taught, survival is logic. But humans lived another truth, and for the first time in his life, Kalen felt doubt. Narrator. The Valari Dominion prided itself on their trials. They said every species that defied them eventually broke. Not in battle, but in the quiet rooms where choice stripped warriors bare. And now it was humanity's turn. The high council chamber shimmered with cruel beauty. Crystalline walls refracted pale light until it pierced the air like knives. At the center, Commander Alara Vance was dragged forward, chains rattling against the polished floor. Counselor Varan lifted a hand. 2 guards brought in another prisoner. It was a human soldier, young, barely 20. His uniform was torn, chest scorched by plasma fire. He stumbled, fell to his knees, and coughed blood onto the floor. VORAN. Behold, your kind, broken, useless. A single life already lost. Show us, Commander. Show us the strength of your love. Narrator, the chamber watched in silence. The test was simple. Abandon him and save herself. That was Valari logic. Survival above all. The soldier's voice cracked. Young soldier, Commander. End it, please. Don't let them. Narrator, Alara fell to her knees beside him. Her chains clattered, her hands trembling as she brushed the sweat from his face. Alara, you're not alone. Not now, not ever. You hear me? Not ever. Narrator. She cradled his head, whispering words no alien translator could fully carry. Old Earth words of comfort, stories of sunlight, the taste of rain, the laughter of mothers. The boy's breathing slowed, and when it stopped, her tears fell. She pressed her forehead to his, held him as if love could anchor him to the world a moment longer. The Valari Council erupted in bitter laughter. Varan, pathetic. See how love blinds her. She weeps for the dead, wasting her energy on what no longer exists. This is humanity, sentiment, weakness, narrator. But Kalen did not laugh. He sat frozen, watching the human woman cradle her fallen soldier. She had gained nothing. No advantage, no safety, no logic. Yet there was a force in her grief that burned brighter than any weapon. He leaned forward, unable to stop himself. Kalen, why waste tears on the dead? Narrator, Alara lifted her head, her face streaked with tears. Her voice cracked, but carried like thunder. Alara, tears aren't for the dead. They're for the living. They remind us that we cared, that we still care, that we are human, and nothing you do will take that away. Narrator, the chamber stilled. The laughter died. Even Voran's glow dimmed for a fraction of a second. Kellen's crystalline chest flickered again. A pulse of light, unbidden, uncontrollable. Something inside him shifted, and for the first time in centuries, a Valari counselor felt the dangerous pull of love. Narrator, the death of the young soldier was supposed to prove humanity's weakness. Instead, it planted a seed of doubt. Whispers spread through the council, through the soldiers, through the halls of crystal. The The Dominion itself began to fracture. The High Council gathered again. Voices clashed like breaking glass. VORAN. Enough of these games. The humans infect even our youth with their madness. Tomorrow we will exterminate every prisoner. End this before weakness spreads. Narrator, the chamber glowed with violent agreement. All but one. Kalen rose to his feet, his body blazing faintly brighter than before. Kalen, no, this is not strength. This is fear disguised as logic. Killing them proves nothing. Keeping them alive shows us something we never had the courage to see. Narrator, gasps echoed across the gallery. A counselor defying consensus was treason. Varan, you dare defy the Dominion. Kalen, I dare to say what none of you will. Perhaps humanity is not weak. Perhaps we are the ones who have forgotten what makes life worth living. Narrator, the chamber erupted. Guards surged forward. Hardliner counselors shouted for Kellen's removal. But before they could seize him, alarms screamed. Red light spilled through the hall. The Dominion itself was under attack. A rebellion had ignited in the outer colonies. Valari fleets turned on Valari fleets. Civil war had begun. Kalen rushed through corridors of shattering glass, his footsteps ringing against the floor. He stopped before Ilara's cell. Kalen, they will kill you at dawn. But dawn will never come. The Empire is burning. Ilara, why are you here? Why help me? Kalen, because you were right. Love is not weakness. It is strength, and I cannot watch you die. Narrator, Ilara stared at him, stunned. She saw no cold logic in him, now only a soul cracking open. Ilara, then, help me fight. Not just for me. For everyone, Kalen. Together, Narrator, he raised his hand. The crystal barrier dissolved. Chains fell away. For the first time, a Valari freed a human, not as a prisoner, but as an equal. The docking bay roared with fire. Explosions thundered as ships screamed into the void. Hardliner soldiers advanced, their bodies blazing with fury. Elara and Kalen ducked behind shattered pillars as blaster fire scorched the air. Smoke curled around them, their eyes locking through the chaos. Ilara, why risk everything for me? Kalen, because for the first time in my existence, I have something worth risking it for. Narrator, and in that moment, as ships burned and empires cracked, the fragile spark between human and alien became fire. Narrator, the Valari citadel of glass burned. Sirens wailed like dying choirs. Rebellion tore through the Empire's veins, and in the middle of that storm ran a human commander and a Valari counselor. The docking bay was chaos. Explosions thundered. Ships screamed as they tore free. Hardliner soldiers advanced, crystalline bodies blazing with cold fury. Ilara and Kalen ducked behind a fractured pillar, smoke curling around them. Ilara's breath came fast, ragged. Kellen's glow flickered wildly. Ilara, we're surrounded. They'll cut us down before we reach the ships. Calen. Then I'll stay and hold them. You escape, Narrator. The words struck her like a blade. He was ready to die for her. Ilara, no, don't you dare. That's not what this is about. I didn't come this far to watch you throw your life away. Kalen, isn't that what love is? To give everything, even if it means the end. Narrator, Ilara grabbed his arm, pulling him close until their faces nearly touched. Elara. Love isn't about dying for someone. It's about living for them, together. Do you hear me? Together, narrator. For a heartbeat, the war faded. The smoke, the sirens, the fire roar blurred into silence. Only two figures remained, standing on the edge of history. Kalen looked into her eyes. His voice was barely a whisper. Kalen, this is love. Elara, yes, and it's stronger than all your fleets. Narrator, than in the ruins of an empire. She kissed him. It was fierce, desperate, not a kiss of ceremony or politics, but of survival, of defiance, of truth. Her warmth met his cool crystalline form. Bioluminescent light surged across her skin. Kellen's chest glowed brighter than any weapon. The resonance wave poured through the docking bay. Valari soldiers froze. Blasters lowered. For a fraction of a second, they felt what their empire had long denied: connection, compassion, love. Narrator, the kiss did not just save them. It cracked the foundation of an empire. When their lips parted, Elara trembled. Kellen's glow was steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. Kalen, I have never felt anything so powerful. It makes the Dominion's fleets feel small. Elara, because they are. Narrator, around them, Valari soldiers stared. Not at enemies, not at prey, but at something they had been told was weakness. Now burning brighter than their empire's logic, Kalen turned to them, his voice carrying like thunder. Kalen, see them not as weak. See them as strong in ways we never dared to be. This is not weakness. This is the power to endure. Narrator, and so it was that in the middle of fire and ruin, a single kiss proved stronger than war. Asterisk narrator. The docking bay grew silent. Where once there had been fire, fury, and death, now there was stillness. The kiss between a human and a Valari had rippled outward, shattering the Dominion's certainty. Valari soldiers, frozen mid-strike, lowered their weapons. They stood in awe, their crystalline bodies flickering faint. Uncertain lights. One soldier whispered what no Valari had dared say aloud. Valari soldier, what is this feeling? Narrator, no one answered, but every Valari in the chamber knew. They had felt love. Kalon stood with Elara's hand still in his. His chest glowed like a living star. He turned to his people. Kalen, this is what you mocked. This is what you feared. Not weakness, but strength. A power beyond weapons. A force that binds instead of breaks. This is why humanity endures. Narrator, the soldiers did not advance. The hardliners wavered. For the first time in Valari history, logic gave way to silence. Days later, the High Council convened once more. But this time, the chamber was not filled with laughter. It was filled with unease, with doubt, with change. Councillor Varan stood, his voice a brittle blade. Varan, we cannot allow this disease to spread. If love takes root, it will fracture everything we built. Narrator, but even as he spoke, others shifted uneasily. The resonance had touched them too. They could not unfeel what they had felt. Councillor Cerise, once cold as ice, spoke quietly. Cerise, perhaps. We were wrong. If love can steady a warrior's hand, if it can silence the fire of battle, is that not strength? Narrator, the chamber fell into murmurs. For the first time in centuries, the Valari were divided, not by ambition, but by possibility. Elara sat in a quiet room overlooking the wounded city. Glass towers still smoked from rebellion. Starships hovered in low orbit, waiting for orders that might never come. Kalen entered, his glow soft, steady, .celen. You've changed us, Elara. Elara, no, you changed yourself. I only reminded you what was already inside. Narrator, he studied her in silence, then lowered himself to one knee. Not as a gesture of submission, but of devotion. Kaelin, I have lived centuries without knowing what life was for. Now I know. It is for this, for you, for us, and for everyone who will come after. Narrator, Elara's throat tightened. For all her strength, all her fire, she could not stop the tears. Elara, don't make me hope too much, Kaelin. I've lost too many already. Kaelin, then let me be the one you do not lose. Narrator. She reached for his hand. Their fingers intertwined, human flesh and crystalline light. Outside, the city stirred with something new. Velari citizens whispered of the resonance. Rebels sang songs of the kiss that stopped armies. Children painted the image of a human and a Velari hand joined together. A crowd gathered beneath the citadel's steps, voices rising not in anger but in awe. They chanted a new word, a word that had never belonged in Velari tongues. Crowd, love. Love, love. Narrator, the empire trembled. Not because of rebellion, not because of war, but because its people had found a new truth. That night, Elara and Kaelin stood together on a balcony, ash drifting through the air, stars burning above. Elara, do you think this will last? Kaelin, not if we stand apart. Yes, if we stand together. Narrator, she leaned into him, and for once there was no counsel, no war, no test. Only the simple truth they had forged in fire. The truth that love was not weakness. It was the strongest force the galaxy had ever seen.